Muy buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, and the love and support you guys share with me. From the heart, thank you. And do please like, share, and subscribe. Well, before I get started, I know a lot of you are gonna tell me there's no need for it, right? But you guys know it's just me, right? Being respectful with everyone. Everyone, I'm not disrespectful to no one, period. There's no point of it, right? But mainly for those that deserve my utmost respect and love. You guys know who you are. Just a quick update. I've been a little MIA and I apologize for it, everyone. I know I didn't do the live, but I've been sick, trying my hardest not to end up in the hospital, right? And it ain't cause I'm hard headed, believe me. It's just a lot of things presented themselves in one blow, right? For example, just to touch on the surface, right? And this is just out of respect to everyone. You guys know I should have started chemo, but that surgery, it kicked my butt. That procedure in the heart. As you guys know, that insurance I was paying, it would cover some, but then I would have to cover some too, right? I wasn't expecting that. So anyways, sign waiver, promises, whatever, right? And I didn't meet it in full, right? My end. It's when the ranch started getting attacked. You guys know I don't like to get heavy on nobody. Nobody. And then when I say that, I mean it. Includes my family. I try to write it out solo. And well, things got complicated. And I know it's probably much, I don't know. Again, I let God guide things, right? But basically, the ranch started getting attacked. Things folded out. I had to pull out. When I did all the moves, it's like so much things, right? You guys know with my health, my condition, and the ranch being attacked, me having to do that big move. And anyways, to not make it long, all I was thinking about covering that feria, right, for the surgery, and I forgot that every 19th I have to cover that insurance, you know, to keep treatments going. Mainly, right? That like chemo, well, it's a bit, right? For me to cover it from pocket, so covering half or a third, and it's better than covering in full, right? So, anyways, since I didn't cover it, and since I'm paying it, right? I'm not an employee or whatever, and they cancel it. By them canceling it, there went my chemo treatments this month, right? And I was supposed to do chemo a month and a half, as you guys know, 3 treatments every other week. And so, anyways, that's where I'm at, right? I've been trying to work out to at least till I'm able to pay it. And I pray, right? Next month, I could pay for them radiation pills, cause man, the last thing I want is to end up in the hospital, right? Be on my heart, lungs, or even the lymphoma Hodgkins, right? Really hitting with nothing for me to treat, calm it down. But anyways, I stayed this to, I'm not gonna say excuse myself with you guys, but I've been having a lot of breathing problems too. So out here is totally different. And I wanted it so not only for what was happening over there, that was nothing, right? I wanted to stay, to be sincere, but I also wanted my niece and nephew to finish their studies. They want to do something besides what the family is used to doing. So, anyways, that's where I'm at. And I apologize, right? Pero cero excusas, right? Aquí estoy. Anyways, today I want to touch on, someone asked me a couple days back to touch on what I said, right? No. It's a little power struggle, terco, and what a sherm had in high desert. And I apologize. I'm sure I touched on it, but don't take my word for it. Let me go back, look through it, and if I haven't, I will touch on the complete power struggle. What I'm sure I haven't touched on is one of the movidas, right? That to basically state what I always say, right? You could do 1,000 things right for a pili, but it's never gonna sit well for another pili, right? Anyways, allow me to touch on this, right? Well, first off, I'll go back to Tehachapi. As you guys know, when I got kicked out to the 180, I had a lot of camaradas waiting for me in the yard that they were set there for the from the pili, right? Again, I was nobody, right? I was just like the lost pawn to get out there and just call it for what it was, right? To Hüero and Joker. And you guys seen they sat down to pee and they ended up telling on me to get removed off the yard for on their lives, right? But anyways, that's politics in the active, right? It's and I say that because you know it's treacherous. Even the GP, of course, is where it holds the honor. And again, I never push for anything else, right? But you would be disappointed. I'll just leave it at that, right? You got to keep your circle tight and real tight. But when you answer up to people that sometimes they're the ones that closing everything to the squad, you know. But anyways, that happened when I went out there. Though there was a camarada, I spoke about him, Pato for Mateo, and well, he was the one that when I snuck out and waiting on Reds and committee, he's the one that had the fierros ready for me to go out and basically tell Hüero and Joker what it was, right? And I went back, sat down in committee, and waited to come out and see what's going to happen, right? Of course, you guys know and said they were going to sit down, right? Allow me to take control, and they slammed us down, and they ended up coming for me, right? But in that time, there was another homie, Pato's homie. He was from San Mateo too. It was the homie Shy. Both of them had over 30 years, right? That's why they were in the 180. And but they were real different, right? Shy he was a little wild one, even though I only met him a couple times, right? Because again, I wasn't there, not very much, right? Um, that fool liked to get high a lot. Pato, nah, he liked to try, but he wanted to be in the mix too, right? Anyways, again, I got rolled up. Me fui, time circle. I would end up in Pelican Bay. As you guys know, I supported Terco a lot, right? It's a real good peeling. He likes to make feria, but his thing is power. Power, you know? Anyways, while we're there, I'm helping him, I'm supporting him to some sense, right? Because there was other camaradas the vatos that were actually on the yard in high desert, right? And I was just the middleman, or like they call it in reality is what it is, right? We're just the secretary. We're the buffer zone. The one that when IGI needed to come down on someone, we're the buffer that we were the one sending everything out, right? It's part of the responsibilities, you know. Anyways, and I desert Shy was there. Shy was there and I'm not sure if he stopped getting high. I would be lying because I wasn't physically on the yard. All I know he was doing good things in the sense of I don't know if he got a high now, he had his family, whatever he had going, right? But he was bringing in my work, but under Hüero Sherm. Hüero Sherm, he was another one that liked to be almost on every yard, right? And mostly all camaradas, right? Even though they're sending to a pili, let's say I have this jardín, a camarada comes, hey, let me work. I'm sending to this pili, hey, let me okay it, check, and it comes down good. And just being a camarada though, right? From the heart. Whenever you hit, hey, look, I hit. Here's something. Send the pili for the chescos or for the sodas or whatever, right? For a honey bun. And out of respect, because that's his jardín. But when you have an individual with that much power, right? Remember this before he went to the feds. And he really had no need for that, right? Mándalos a la pa allá, pa acá. And you do your thing, you only respond to me. And the homie Shy was trying to do something in the city too, right? To what extent, again, that's not my business. I know he was in touch with his neighborhood or with homies out there, and of course, It's how we spread the poison, right? And I say that because I was one of them, big time, in a lot of different ways. I was never an angel, never, right? I was part of the problem too. But again, we're in that mentality. We think we're doing something good, right? And he was doing things out there in his neighborhood for sherm. Nobody, even Terco, right? He tried to stay at bay from sherm, but he wasn't like the other Pilis. Again, let me check and I'm gonna touch deeply into it, right? Anyways, I responded with Shire, let me see, 2005 to 2006, almost a whole year, I would say a year, right? So the homie was doing good things. Problem was that that yard belonged to Terco. I know Hüero was pushing that Mesa system, whatever, but it was spoken back there in the shoe, but in action on the yards, it wasn't happening. So it was Terco's yard. I lifted in Ironwood and Terco's not gonna allow it. So anyways, the homie was doing his thing again. Cool, right? By that time we had that little history back there. I stayed in touch with Pato, right? Cause Pato also he became a camarada, right? We would call a camarada in our structure. And I like the dude. I really did, right? And it's just things that we have to do though. You see all that? Nah, he's my homie. I'm gonna do nah. There's none of that. I till this day I still love the wiggle in our causa. Not because of the game banging anymore. Believe me. All that sur norte, bulldog, nah. But I literally gave my life up to the campo el causa many times. And for me to say I don't feel nothing, that would be a lie. But what it should really be though, the love of our raza, our gente, period. Ain't that. That's all a myth, that's all a lie. I'm gonna tell you why. You see, I've always been cautious of making a camarada, supporting him, not wrecking one. But that's when I tell you guys that tecato mentality you can't go against. There is no such thing as you could do many things with camaradas in there. Hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, bleed, whatever, right? Get stomped in with, boogie with. At the same time, you're gonna be told to whack that fool, or that fool could whack you. It's just the way the program is based. And I say this to state this, right? That fake carnalismo they preach so much of in the pintas. Again, quote me, in the pintas. Is it not possible? Specifically now that you got these cats walking the line, right? The Pilis. Anyways, I'm gonna cut it short. Shy, Kenny was doing his thing, right? On the yard, hitting, making his feriecita. On the yard, hitting sherm, having his people on the streets or his homies, whatever. Also in Suruf, sherm feria. Terco got jealous. He didn't state it like that in Amapil, but that's where the facts, right? That he had other workers as I stayed Terco on the yard, right? So he was receiving gossip, comadre about Pato excuse me, Shy doing his thing on the yard. So he would eventually tell me like, hey, look, that's my yard. Tell homeboy that from here out, he's gonna have to break bread. I'm not gonna tell him what, but he's gonna have to break bread, pay his respects. Again, that should have been off the back, right? If you had some type of clecha, real clecha, I don't know how you got in touch with Sherm, but you gotta show respect to the vato that has the jardín, regardless, even if it comes out your pocket. If you know the ropes at least, right? So, when Terco got at me behind this, I had no option but I feel gacho, right? How am I gonna tell him the bitch he's risking his thing and he has to pay 2 pilis? But it's Terco's yard. He could have came up with a cuartito, a little fat cuartito that you could do 550s and send that to Terco. I bet you would have been happy, right? Every other hit or whatever, just respects, right? And but he didn't, he thought he was doing right for Sherm. And you know, I guarantee you Sherm was in his ear like, nah, you're good with me. Don't trip. And Pato didn't. So Sherm said no. Sherm's gonna get a terco directly. Which he did. You know, it was, to say the least, terco was upset and told me, hey, it's cool. Let that cat work. Not in those words, but in the meanings. So, you know, in my head, I'm like, damn, this fool. You know, I honestly didn't think, I'll be sincere with you guys. I thought Terco was gonna be, going to the feds before Sherm. Just, how much open wars he had with different Billies, right? Sherm wasn't there in every yard, but, there weren't too many people going against him. Terco, it's a different story. But, anyways, Sherm would end up going to the feds. And then, Shy was loyal to Sherm. Sherm went to the feds and he kept doing his thing. New people, new avenues, everything, right? I haven't met a camarada that was with Sherm that has told me Sherm wrote to them from the feds and tried to continue with them. And it happened with Shy, right? And, you know, Terco was hurt. He tried to reach out to Terco and he said no. No. And let me tell you guys, for no apparent reason, not one, but what I just told you, about a month passed after Sherm had left, right? Then I just got that on my PLA. Tell the vato that had the jardín there physically to have this full whack. Me as a soldado, like we call ourselves, right? Stayed quiet and just pushed the orders. Yeah, not cause I disliked the homie, not cause I knew he was wrong or he had it coming, but because I was one of them, right? Again, I was part of the problem. I sent the order for Shy to get wet. And you know, again, the homie had a grip of time. The only thing with Terco is that when he did things like that, he did them, you could say on the low low, right? Cause he did them like kind of like, cause you had also a Psycho from Santa Monica on the yard with people. But later on, Shy would end up getting, I believe, to New Folsom. And the Pili and the people that were working there, they cleared him all good. They like, hey, Kyle, whatever you had going with Sherm, let's keep it pushing. Now under my name though. Again, you could say the whole message in this one is exactly that, right? To show a glimpse how you could go inside and do 1,000 things right. You could be a campolero, a Pili could be calling orders, and of course, you know it's a service. You as a campolero, you're not gonna give up a service. Responsibilities, you best hold on to them. Someone tells you, hey, back down, you go through them, you ramp through them, because that's what it is to be a soldado, along with all the other shady stuff. But when that pili leaves, for whatever reason, that pili's gonna walk out on you, period. That's why it's never wise to work under one individual, right? I say it 1,000 times. He ended up being able to clear, but just think of those thousands and thousands of camaradas that just over a grudge. You know, if I would have known it was going to lead to that, I'll be sincere with you. I would have gave him the damn cuartito myself. And not because I was a good vato or a good homie again. I was in that mindset, you know. If it had to happen, let it happen. I had a lot of time to reflect, right? I didn't agree with it. I wasn't happy with it, but I always fooled myself to keep pushing. And it's just what happens on a daily in there. And not just over dope, but it's like 95% of the cases. Because even if they're not dope fiends, they depend on dope for fattening their pockets. $200 every 2-3 weeks. He could have saved about 13, 15 stab wounds and hitting the yard with the shame. You know, I give him props though. A lot of vatos get whacked and they weenie out and lock it up. He didn't. He went out to the yard and he forced him. He tried to clear himself up in the hopes he could or get whacked again. And he was able to clear it up. But again, just think how many fools just get so disappointed that they just say, Charles. So be smart. Really think about it. Are you ready? Even if it don't happen like that, out of the 100 homies, let's just say 80 of them, it happens. But are you really willing to risk that? Go for something good, defending where you grew up, those you grew up with, to going in there and just waiting for them to sleep, to be the cause to hurt them. Most importantly, to put your family through the struggles. Nevertheless, do you really know the agony of sitting down, doing time? Most of all, believe me, the disappointment will be there. I'm not gonna say not daily, but so be smart. And I mean, when I mean be smart, I'm not trying to minimize nobody, right? Something present itself, analyze it. Not like a weenie, but for the benefit of you. Stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones. Gracias, mi gente. Buenas noches.